Commander Alex Hart stepped out of the transport ship and into the great hall of Meridian Station. The corridor was long and wide, built to accommodate beings of many different sizes and shapes. Alex wore the dress uniform of Earth Command, a blue and silver suit that looked simple compared to the armor and robes of the other delegates already waiting in the chamber. The Galactic Council met in a massive circular room that hung in the center of the station like a floating island. 7 tall chairs faced each other, and representatives from 7 different species sat waiting. Alex had studied their records many times. The ambassador was a being made of pure crystal that seemed to glow with an inner light. The commander was a reptilian warrior covered in hard scales and natural weapons. The others represented species Alex had learned to respect, but never truly understood. Alex walked forward and bowed, a gesture of respect that the council had taught all younger species to use. A voice spoke through the translation device. The voice was cold and without feeling. Earth has requested an audience. We have allowed this. State your purpose, Commander Heart of Earth. Alex took a deep breath. The words had been rehearsed many times, but nothing could fully prepare someone for facing the beings who ruled half the galaxy. 3 months ago, a new force began attacking human settlements on the frontier. They call themselves the Void Collective. They are expanding rapidly, taking territories, taking resources, and killing anyone who stands in their way. The attacks are becoming more frequent and more brutal. We came to ask for help. We came to ask the Galactic Council to join with humanity against this threat. The chamber fell silent. Alex could see the commander leaning back in his massive chair, a gesture that might have been amusement or might have been something else. When he spoke, his voice was low and carried the sound of distant thunder. You are young species. You have only recently joined the council. The Void Collective is a serious problem, yes, but many problems come and go. You speak as if this is the greatest threat the galaxy has ever faced. The ambassador spoke again. The Void Collective has indeed been aggressive. However, our analysis shows they have not yet reached the outer edges of human territory. Perhaps the solution is simpler. Your people could retreat further into your regions of space. This would avoid direct conflict. Alex felt anger rise inside but forced it down. Getting angry would not help humanity. The Void Collective will not stop. They are taking territory. If we retreat, they will follow. If the human colonies fall, the empire will grow stronger. Eventually, they will threaten the space of every species in this council. A small blue being named Ani, from a merchant species, leaned forward. The human commander speaks with logic. The Void Collective has destroyed 3 neutral trading posts already. This is unusual behavior. Most aggressive species follow patterns. This one seems to have no limits to its expansion. The commander made a sound that Alex recognized as disagreement. We have faced many threats. The Void Collective is just another one, but we cannot ignore the fact that humans are fragile. You live on a harsh world. You have shorter lives than most species. In military terms, you are not equipped to face a threat of this size. Alex had prepared for this moment. You are right that humans are physically weaker than many species, but we have something else. We have learned to work together in ways that other species do not. We fight harder when we are protecting others. We make choices that are not always the logical choice because we believe that some things matter more than winning a battle. The crystal seemed to glow brighter. This is not a factor that appears in military calculations. Perhaps it should, Alex said quietly. The council members looked at each other. Some kind of communication seemed to pass between them, silent and invisible to human eyes. Finally, the eldest of the council, a being named who represented a species that had already joined the galaxy 1,000 years before humans discovered fire, spoke for the first time. We will send observer teams to your military commands. They will study your situation and your methods. If what you say is true, they will see it. If what you say is false, they will see that as well. This is the most we can offer at this time. Alex wanted to argue, wanted to ask for more, but knew that this was all that could be achieved today. "Thank you, Council. We accept your observers with honor." As the meeting ended and the council members stood to leave, Alex felt the weight of what was about to happen. The observers would come. They would see human soldiers training, human pilots preparing for battle, human commanders making plans. They would judge whether humanity deserved their help. 3 days later, the first observer team arrived at the command station on New Terra, the largest human colony in the frontier region. The team consisted of 4 beings. There was an warrior named, who stood nearly 3 meters tall with muscles visible beneath his scaly skin. There was a named crystal that reflects, who seemed to float rather than walk. There was a small Ani merchant named Pip who carried translation devices. And there was an older being from the merchant species, named, who had seen more battles than most species fought in 1,000 years. They were given a tour of the command center by Captain Daniel Reeves, a human officer who had fought in 3 wars already and still had a calmness about him that impressed everyone who met him. He showed them the operations room, where maps of human territory were displayed on glowing screens. He showed them the barracks where human soldiers trained with weapons that seemed almost primitive compared to what the observers carried. They looked at the human weapons and made a low noise. "These are the tools of a child learning to fight. Your species cannot possibly survive against a real enemy." Captain Reeves did not get angry. He simply nodded and said, "We will see when the battle comes." That night, Alex Hart stood on an observation deck looking out at the stars. The Void Collective was out there, moving through space, getting closer to human worlds every day. The observer teams had arrived, but Alex was not sure they would change anything. The Council seemed unwilling to commit real military resources to help humanity. But there was something else in Alex's mind, something that had been growing since the first day the attacks began. It was a feeling of purpose. Humans might be weak by the measures the galaxy used. They might be fragile and short-lived, but they had never learned to stop fighting for each other. And if that was all they had, then it would have to be enough. Alex did not know that within weeks, the observers would see something that would change their understanding of what strength truly meant. They did not know that human fragility and human courage would prove to be something far more dangerous than any weapon. But standing in the darkness of space, Alex Hart felt that change beginning. The future was coming, and it would be unlike anything the galaxy had ever experienced. The first battle came faster than anyone expected. A scout ship detected a Void Collective fleet moving toward the human colony of Gateway 7. The fleet was large, with 3 heavy cruisers and 12 fighter ships. Captain Daniel Reeves received the order to engage with everything he had. The human fleet consisted of 2 heavy cruisers, 6 medium ships, and 15 fighter vessels. By every calculation, they were. The warrior watched from the observation deck of the human command ship. Next to him stood Crystal That Reflects and the older merchant observer. They had been with the human forces for only 2 weeks, and already they were seeing combat. Reeves sat in the command chair and gave his orders with a calm voice. "All ships, form defensive line around the civilian transport vessels. Fighters, I want you to engage their fighter screen. Cruisers, maintain distance and provide fire support. Let's show these insects what we can do." The human ships moved into formation. The observers noted that the formation was not optimal by Council standards. The defensive arrangement made no logical sense because the transport vessels could not possibly escape if things went wrong. A logical commander would have abandoned them to save the combat ships. But Reeves had not abandoned them. The battle started with missile fire from both sides. The human ships were fast and nimble, better than expected given their simple technology. Watched as human pilots flew damaged ships, refusing to retreat even when their vessels were wounded and smoking. One human fighter pilot named Officer Grace Williams took hit after hit to her ship while protecting the civilian transports. Her systems were failing, her engines were damaged, but she kept flying. "She will be killed," said, stating a simple fact. Captain Reeves heard this through the communication system. "Officer Williams knows the odds. She is staying because the transport behind her carries children." Did not understand this decision. In battles, soldiers were expendable if it meant saving the military force. Children were valued but not above victory. A commander who sacrificed military advantage for children's lives was a commander who would lose wars. Grace Williams' ship took another hit. Her shield collapsed completely. She should have ejected. There was an escape pod. Protocol said to leave the ship. Instead, Grace veered her damaged fighter directly at the approaching enemy squadron. She fired everything she had left, forcing the hostile ships to break formation and dodge her. This gave the transport vessels behind her precious seconds to accelerate away. Grace's fighter exploded 3 seconds later. The chamber went silent. The old merchant observer made a soft sound. It was not a sound that translated easily into human language, but it was something between surprise and sorrow. Captain Reeves continued the battle as if nothing had happened, but his voice had changed. It was harder now, and there was pain in it. "All stations, Officer Williams bought us time. We will make that time count." The battle raged on. The human ships moved with an unpredictability that confused the automated systems of the Void Collective. The fleet expected enemies to follow mathematical patterns, but humans did not always follow patterns. They made moves that appeared foolish until suddenly they were brilliant tactical decisions. Then Captain Reeves did something that surprised everyone. His main cruiser had taken significant damage. Its shields were weak. A logical commander would have moved the ship to the rear where it could still provide support. Instead, Reeves accelerated directly toward the enemy formation. "Captain, your shields cannot take another hit," his weapons officer warned. "I know," Reeves said. "Everyone hold on." The human cruiser plunged into the middle of the enemy fleet like a knife. It fired at point-blank range, hitting 3 enemy ships at once. Void Collective ships tried to target the human vessel, but they were too close, too tangled up with each other. The human cruiser's final act was to ram one of the enemy ships, crippling both vessels. As the human ship retreated, venting atmosphere and losing power, understood something. This was not random sacrifice. This was strategy. By using his own ship as a hammer, Reeves had broken the enemy formation completely. The tide of the battle turned. The human fighters, now moving with better angles of attack, began to destroy enemy ships faster than they were being destroyed. One by one, the Void Collective vessels either retreated or were eliminated. When it was over, the human fleet had lost 2 ships completely and had 3 more that were damaged beyond immediate repair. Officer Grace Williams was dead. 12 other human soldiers and crew members were dead. They had won. Captain Reeves stood from his command chair and looked at the displays showing the retreating Void Collective ships. Tears were running down his face, but his voice was steady as he gave orders to rescue crews from the damaged vessels and to begin repairs. He gave the names of the dead. He called them by their full names, as if speaking their names into the record made them matter. "Officer Grace Williams of Massachusetts. Her family will be informed. She will be remembered." Reeves then did something that shocked the observers. He opened a communication channel to all the ships in his fleet. His voice, tired and sad, spoke to every human soldier. "We lost good people today. We lost friends. But the people in those transports are safe because people like Grace Williams refused to leave them. This is what we do. This is who we are. We do not leave our people behind. We do not forget those who gave everything." The human crew responded with sounds of agreement. It was not a warrior cry like the would make. It was quieter, more personal, but somehow more powerful. Crystal that reflects spoke too in the ancient language of the older races. The human commander mourns the loss of his soldiers. This shows weakness. Did not answer immediately. He was watching Reeves, watching how the human captain looked at the images of Grace Williams' final moments. The warrior was trying to understand something that his entire civilization had trained him to ignore. Finally said, or it shows something else. It shows that these humans value each individual life. It shows that they will fight harder, risk more, die more freely if they know their commanders will remember them. This is not weakness. I am not certain what it is, but it is not weakness. Nodded slowly. The humans teach us something. In our long existence, we have forgotten what it means to fight for something beyond victory. The observers sent their report back to the Galactic Council that night. They described the battle, the losses, and the victory, but they did not have clear conclusions. Humanity had won, but at a cost that seemed too high by Council standards. They had defeated a superior force, but they had lost good soldiers in the process. What the observers did not write clearly, but what they all felt, was that they had witnessed something extraordinary. They had seen humans transform grief into determination. They had seen fragile beings make decisions that no logical being would make. And they had seen these decisions succeed. 3 more battles happened over the next 6 months. Each one was different from the last. Each one taught the alien observers something new about human warfare and human nature. The second battle involved a Void collective attack on a mining station. The colony there had 7,000 people, including 3,000 children. The Void collective sent a strike force to destroy the station and capture the resources it held. Commander Lisa Park led the defense from the station itself. She was not a military commander by training. She was an engineer, but the station needed leadership, and she stepped into the role. The station's weapons were limited. The Void collective's ships were far more advanced. By every calculation, the station would fall in hours. The Council observers had a prediction. The humans would retreat, take the civilian population, and abandon the station. This was logical. Resources could be replaced. Lives could not. Lisa Park refused to retreat. Instead, she did something clever. She had studied the station's systems her entire career. She knew every duct, every corridor, every power line. She used the station itself as a weapon. She vented sections of atmosphere, creating debris clouds that confused enemy sensors. She redirected power through damaged areas to create false signals. She made the enemy think the station was more dangerous than it actually was. When the Void collective sent boarding parties, they found the humans waiting in darkness, fighting with nothing but basic weapons and knowledge of terrain. The enemy soldiers, designed for open combat with superior technology, were confused and disorganized. The human defenders, fighting to protect their homes and their children, were fierce and desperate. The Void collective lost more soldiers in the boarding action than they had lost in any previous engagement. The station remained in human hands. Watching this battle from the observation center made a sound of frustration. This should not happen. These humans are using primitive weapons against superior forces and winning. This violates the laws of military engagement that all advanced species know to be true. The old merchant said softly, "Perhaps the laws are wrong." The third battle was different again. A Void collective fleet attacked a human cargo convoy. The convoy was transporting supplies and equipment. The human commander, Lieutenant Colonel Young, made a strange decision. He was outnumbered 5-1. He could have run. Instead, he formed a circle around the cargo ships and stood his ground. His ships could not win a direct fight. He did not try to. Instead, ordered his ships to use a tactic so unusual that the observers had to ask what it meant. He called it the circle defense. Every human ship moved in a rotating pattern around the cargo vessels. When one ship took damage, another moved to cover it. The formation was constantly changing, constantly adapting, like a living thing rather than a military unit. The Void collective ships attacked repeatedly, but every time they thought they had found a weak point, the formation shifted. It took 5 hours, but eventually, the Void collective commander decided the convoy was not worth the losses. Crystal that reflects asked directly, "Why did you name this tactic after a circle? A military formation is not a living thing. It is not organic." Smiled sadly. He had seen friends die in that 5-hour battle. It is not a circle because of military theory. It is a circle because it is what you do when protecting your family. You stand together. You move together. You do not leave anyone behind. A circle has no weak point because everyone is watching everyone else's back. The observer seemed to process this for a long time before responding. "You speak as if a military unit is the same as a family." "To us," said simply, "it is." After 6 months, the alien observers sent a comprehensive report to the Galactic Council. The report began with numbers and facts. Humans had won 3 consecutive battles despite being outnumbered, and the Void Collective had suffered higher losses than expected. Humanity had demonstrated tactical abilities that were surprising for such a young species. But the second part of the report was different. The observers admitted something that shocked the other council members. They stated that they had begun to experience a new emotion. They described it as concern. Some translated it as fear. His contribution to the report was direct. He wrote, "I have fought in battles for the past 1,000 years. I have killed thousands of enemies. I have commanded warriors greater and stronger than myself. But I have never seen an enemy that I did not understand. These humans, they fight by rules I do not know. They value things I have been taught not to value. They sacrifice in ways that make no logical sense. And because I do not understand them, because I cannot predict what they will do, I am afraid of them." The council called an emergency session. All the observers were asked to attend. The chamber was more serious than it had been during Alex Hart's original request for help. The Galactic Council was afraid, not of the Void Collective, but of humanity itself. Commander Alex Hart was summoned to address the council again. But this time, the questions were different. This time, the council wanted to understand. They wanted to know what made humans different. They wanted to know what drove people like Grace Williams to throw away their lives. What made people like Lisa Park fight for a station instead of the people? What made people like Young talk about military units as families? Alex Hart stood in the center of the chamber and tried to explain something that was so basic to human nature that it was hard to put into words. Humans are not like other species. We come from a world that wants to kill us. The gravity is high. The predators are many. The climate can turn deadly without warning. We learned early that individual strength does not matter much. What matters is the group. What matters is knowing that someone will save you when you are dying. What matters is being willing to save others. This is not strategy to us. This is not even a choice. It is simply who we are." The commander leaned forward. "And if we try to use this understanding to predict your actions, what will we find?" Alex smiled. "You will find that every time you think we should retreat, we will stand and fight. Every time you think we should abandon someone, we will sacrifice everything to save them. Every time you think we should give up, we will find another way. Not because we are stronger, but because we have learned to be afraid of losing each other more than we are afraid of losing anything else." For the first time, the ancient Galactic Council sat in absolute silence. They were beginning to understand something that terrified them. Humanity was not just another species. Humanity was something they had not seen in millions of years. Humanity was creatures who valued each other so completely that they had become impossible to break. The Galactic Council voted to fully support humanity in the war against the Void Collective. But more than that, they did something unprecedented. They invited human commanders to participate directly in council planning meetings. They began to form joint task forces with mixed species working together under unified command. The warrior requested assignment to a human-led unit. This was highly unusual. Warriors of his rank and age did not serve under younger species, but wanted to understand these humans better. He wanted to see how they fought when they were not just defending their own homes and families, but fighting alongside warriors from other worlds. Lieutenant Colonel Young welcomed with simple words. "We fight to protect those who cannot protect themselves. If you agree with this, then you are welcome here." Said, "I am here to fight. That is what I do." Smiled, "Then you will fit with us just fine." The joint task force consisted of 60 human soldiers, 30 warriors, 20 weapon specialists, and small groups of soldiers from other council species. The mission was the most dangerous yet. There was a void collective fortress on the planet called Red Gate. The fortress held not only military installations, but also 5,000 enslaved beings from various species. The Void Collective used them for labor and experimentation. The fortress was protected by thousands of soldiers and dozens of defensive weapons. Every military calculation showed that attacking it would result in massive casualties. The Void Collective expected any assault to come from outside, with ships and heavy weapons. Young had a different plan. He divided the task force into 3 groups. The first group, commanded by a captain named, would create a massive distraction. They would attack the fortress directly with everything they had. The Void Collective would see this attack and move all their forces to defend the main structures. The second group, humans led by Commander Sarah White, would go deep into the fortress through maintenance tunnels and old water systems. Their goal was to break open the cells where the enslaved beings were held. This was the most dangerous job because it meant going alone into the heart of the fortress. The third group, led by himself, would wait for the right moment and move fast to help whoever needed help most. Was assigned to the distraction team with, he was not happy about this. "Why do I not go with the humans on the dangerous mission? I am the strongest here. I should protect them." The captain put a claw on shoulder. "Young has more faith in you than you understand. The distraction must be real. The enemy must believe we are truly attacking the fortress. If we do not make them believe, they will not commit their forces. If they do not commit their forces, Commander White and her team will be discovered and killed. Our job is more important than we might believe. We protect the humans by keeping the enemy focused on us." Thought about this and nodded slowly. It made sense, but it was still difficult. The battle began at dawn on Red Gate. Force attacked with everything they had. Weapons cut through the outer defenses. Warriors charged the gates. Human soldiers fired with precision at every target. The fortress shook under the assault. Inside the fortress, Sarah White led her team through darkness and danger. They moved slowly, quietly, searching for the prison cells. They were only 30 humans against thousands of enemies. If they were discovered, they would die. But they did not think about dying. They thought about the 5,000 beings waiting in those cells. They thought about children who had been taken from their homes. They thought about the people counting on them. They found the first cell block at the deepest level of the fortress. Commander White cut through the lock with a laser tool. A door opened, and terrified faces looked out. "We are here to get you out," White said simply. "We are going to move fast. Stay close. Do not make noise. Do not ask questions. Just follow." She freed 300 beings from that block. They moved back through the tunnels toward the exits, but on the way, they ran into a Void Collective patrol. The firefight was brief and brutal. 2 of White's soldiers were killed, but they killed the patrol before any alarm could be raised. White did not pause. She did not stop to mourn. There would be time for mourning later if there was a later. She freed more cells. She was moving deeper into the fortress instead of out. Her soldiers asked her why. "There are more people down there," she said. "We are not leaving until we get them all or we die trying." On the surface, watched the fortress defenses light up with activity. The Void Collective was moving all their forces to fight assault, but noticed something. More soldiers were moving deeper, away from the battle. They were going after something or someone inside the fortress. Understood what was happening. Sarah White had been discovered. The Void Collective had found her team. He turned to, "The humans need us." was about to give an order to retreat when Young's voice came through the communication system. All units converge on position 17. Second group has freed the prisoners. First group keep the main forces pinned. Third group is going in now. Saw Young and his team running toward the fortress entrance, moving fast, weapons ready. The young human commander was not waiting for orders. He was not following military procedure. He was doing what humans did. He was going to help people who needed him. Made a decision that went against everything his commanders had taught him. He left formation and moved toward the fortress himself, shouted at him to return but did not listen. When reached the fortress entrance, Young was already inside, moving through corridors, searching for White's team. The Void Collective had sent soldiers to intercept them, joined, using his strength and weapons to cut through the enemy defenses. They found Sarah White and her team in a corridor, surrounded by Void Collective soldiers on both sides. The humans were trapped with 300 freed prisoners who could not fight. Fired at the enemies ahead while attacked those coming from behind. Together, they held the corridor open, but there were too many. Took a hit from an energy weapon that burned through his armor. Blood ran down his side. Saw this and moved without thinking. He placed his body between and the enemy fire. A human body is small and fragile. A single hit from a Void Collective weapon would kill him. Pushed aside with his claw. "You cannot protect me, human. I am too large. Your body cannot shield me." "I know," said, "but I can slow them down, get these people out of here." Wanted to argue, but he understood what was doing. The human was making the same choice that Grace Williams had made. He was sacrificing himself so others could live. Lifted and carried him, then ran. He ran with his massive strength, knocking aside enemies, using his body as a battering ram. The corridor seemed to stretch forever. They made it out. Sarah White got everyone to the extraction point. Young was wounded but alive. The 5,000 imprisoned beings were freed. As they retreated, looked back at the fortress. He had fought in wars for 1,000 years. He had never fought like this. He had never fought to save individuals. He had always fought to win, but the humans had shown him something different. They fought to save each other, knowing it might cost them everything. And somehow this approach that made no logical sense had worked. The war continued for another year. Each battle brought humans and others closer together. Each battle also brought more losses, but each battle brought them closer to victory. The Void Collective Command Center received reports of losses that seemed impossible. They were losing battles against enemies that should have been easy to defeat. The Empire did not understand what was happening. They sent more ships, more soldiers, more resources. But resources could not fight what they were facing. Resources could not explain why an enemy force would sacrifice everything to save a single comrade. Resources could not explain an enemy that did not fight to win, but fought to protect others. On the Void Collective Command ship, the ruler of the Empire, a being named Lord who had lived for 200 cycles, made a decision. He would commit everything to one final massive assault. He would destroy the human-alien alliance completely. After that, there would be no one left to stand against him. Lord commanded a fleet of 500 ships. He sent them to attack the space station called Horizon Base, which had become the central command point for the human-alien alliance. The attack was meant to be the final blow. But the humans had expected this. Commander Alex Hart, who had started this entire fight, stood in the command center of Horizon Base. Beside her stood, now decorated with marks of honor from both human and cultures. "They are coming," Alex said, watching the sensor displays. "This is the biggest force they have ever sent. They want to end this war with one attack." Nodded, "Then we will show them what the United Galaxy is capable of." What happened next was the largest space battle that any living being had ever witnessed. 500 Void Collective ships attacked Horizon Base and the defense fleet protecting it. The defense fleet consisted of 200 ships from 6 different species. Humanity made up only half the defense force by numbers, but human pilots and commanders were everywhere, fighting and dying alongside warriors, weapons specialists, and others. The battle raged for hours. Fought on the bridge of a human ship, working alongside human officers. He watched as human commanders made decisions that shocked him each time. When one sector of the defense was breaking, they did not retreat. They sent more ships to reinforce it, even though they knew those ships would probably be destroyed. When enemy ships broke through the defense lines, the humans did not flee. They counterattacked immediately, pushing back the invaders, driving them out, accepting massive casualties. By the end of the battle, the Void Collective had lost 400 ships. The defense force had lost nearly 150 ships. Thousands of soldiers from every species were dead. But the Void Collective had been defeated. Lord realized that he could not win. He ordered his remaining ships to retreat and scatter. The Empire collapsed as quickly as it had grown. Without a unified command structure, without the ability to replace their losses, the remaining Void Collective fleets simply stopped attacking. The war was over. After the battle, as the repair crews worked on the damaged ships and the medical teams treated the wounded, found Alex Hart on an observation deck. They stood together looking out at the wreckage of hundreds of destroyed ships, human and Void Collective. "You have won," said. "Your people have saved the galaxy." Alex shook her head. "We did not win alone, all of us won together. Every species that fought did their part, but you know what I realize? The Void Collective would have won if they had simply understood us. They were stronger, they were more numerous, they had better weapons, but they lost because they did not understand what humans bring to the galaxy." Was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke words that came from very deep inside him, from a place he had kept hidden for 1,000 years. "For the first time in my life I am experiencing dread, not fear of losing a battle, not concern about military defeat, but dread, a deep fear of something I cannot fight with weapons." "What do you fear?" Alex asked. "I fear the future," said. "I fear a galaxy where humans are allowed to grow, where your kind learns more, builds more, connects more with other species. You have shown me that there is a way of being a warrior that is different from what I believed. You have shown me that protecting others is stronger than destroying others. You have shown me that a human, this fragile creature that lives only a short time, can inspire and who has lived 1,000 years to question everything he believes." Turned to look at Alex directly. "I am afraid because I know that the galaxy will change because of what happened here. I am afraid because your species has taught my species something we forgot long ago. We forgot that strength is not about how strong your body is. Strength is about how much you are willing to sacrifice for others. Strength is about never leaving anyone behind." Alex understood what was saying. "You are saying that humans have made you afraid of becoming better." "Yes," said simply, "and I am grateful for this fear." As the sun of the distant star system set on Horizon Base, the humans and aliens worked together to repair the damage and honor the dead. They had come together as separate species. They were leaving as something new, a unified galaxy, not ruled by one species but guided by principles that humans had taught them. Humans were still physically weaker than many other species. They still lived short lives. They still did not have the most advanced technology, but they had something else. They had a way of connecting with others that changed everything about how civilization could work. In the years that followed, the galaxy would remember this war not as the war against the Void Collective, but as the time when humanity taught the universe what strength truly meant. They would remember the names of soldiers like Grace Williams and commanders like Young who had shown that sacrifice was more powerful than conquest. And in the hearts of ancient warriors they would remember the day when they felt dread for the first time. The dread that came from understanding that a species might be strong enough not just to defeat enemies, but to change what it meant to be strong. This dread would become the beginning of hope, because the future would belong to a galaxy where strength meant protecting others, where warriors fought to save rather than to destroy, where every species was learning what humans had always known, that individuals matter, that each life has value, that the greatest strength comes not from weapons or technology, but from the simple act of standing together. The humans had come to the galaxy expecting to be weak. Instead, they had become the teachers, and the most advanced species in existence were learning to be afraid of becoming like them. This was the greatest victory of all.